I don't, you start us off.
Hi again, everyone. It's Victoria McMahon here with Lori Camden, the awesome collaborator team that we are in Exploring Soma. We're both part of the programming of bringing programming forward through the Language of Consciousness Institute. And we are so enthralled with being in conversation that today it just magically arose in us to title this conversation "Be the Conversation," and what that is like for us as individuals and collectively. How do we experience ourselves to be in conversation, being the conversation? And we just kind of popped on the recording right away because Lori was really tapping into how she is in conversation. So Lori, take it.
Well, hello everyone. It's funny because I don't really remember anything I said right at this moment. So let me just pause for a moment and reconnect. Yeah, I was sharing, I like the be the conversation, because really, what is that? Being the conversation. You're present to the conversation. And I instantly went to, well, a lot of us, we're not in conversation. We're already thinking of the answer that we think of the question that's going to be asked or what have you. So we're ahead of the communication, if you will, maybe putting on our own agenda or not. But how can we sit with listening? And I was sharing with Victoria, the listening for me, it modulates between hearing the words and the languaging and connecting that way. And then there's the underlying flow of life energy that runs. And it's like, I know people out there, I'm practicing this skill, but I know people out there that are like, I have no idea what you just said, but the energy was so alive and vibrant, and there was resonance in the topic or of the communication or what have you. And I'm like, wow, wouldn't it be great to meet people and have conversations in that regard, rather than trying to answer what you think they're hypothetically going to ask and what have you. It's like, just be in the moment. How about you, Victoria?
And I was kind of sitting with the feeling of it, and then I heard the word "just," being the
Yeah.
and my little brain went into,
Yeah.
oh, if it were so simple, how is it that we find ourselves not that way so simply?
Yes. Yes.
And the beauty, this, like a lot of times when we record, we're thinking about what we want to share, and we have a sense of an organization or a plan to it. And today we just kind of started chatting, and then I said, I'm hitting record, and we're just kind of letting it fly. And so for me, that's a moment to register or pay attention to, in a way, how it is that we be conversation. And what I heard that was really interesting from what you said is that there's a way in which the language sometimes invites you in more deeply in resonance, in the feeling of being with another. And then sometimes your mental mind is so focused on the words and the language that it may detract, or what's the word I want? There's a feeling, not dissonance, but Distraction. That's the word I wanted. Thank you. And I wonder if you might say more about that, because what I think that relates to for me, the ping for me was, this is part of one of the aspects of living somatically, is that we find discernment between mental mind thinking and the language of the mind resonantly. What comes up for you, Lori?
I relate that to being in all of our centers. So being in the mind center, the emotion center, and the body center. So you're inviting wisdom to come from the physical body in an energetic sort of way. Like, do I feel a tightening in my gut that's holding on? Like, ooh, I don't like that languaging, or that languaging is triggering? Or is it an aliveness in the body that connects you with the languaging? And for each of us, having that discernment for ourselves is huge. And I believe when we're able to be more deeply in each of those languaging centers or aspects of our soma, we can connect at a different level. So then maybe the languaging doesn't trip us up as much. Because life experience, there's the definition in, the dictionary or in Google or whatever. And then there's our definition, right? Through our lived experience, and how we may have found a broader, deeper definition that we can move with. And I usually check that in from my body, because I'm like I love language. And somebody says something and I'm like, well, I'm not sure if I like that word. And then I check in. And if it was like a grabbing, then I try to work that balance out in my own system to maybe have the conversation around, this is my definition, or this is how I relate with what we're speaking about, and holding space for all perspectives. That's huge.
Yeah, that's simple and yet not simple, right?
It's dynamic, right?
I have to share what I was paying attention to. When you gave sound and a body movement to the grab, that I noticed in myself how sometimes, how you were speaking about the mind, the words can be about mental mind thinking versus the language of mind being. I have to say that those of us that are more oriented to the body, I think sometimes we can get tripped up by all the body sensation, and then it becomes about the sensation itself instead of being in the conversation. Because I noticed as I was trying on, I was not in the presence of you fully. I was like playing, and it's kind of like that. Am I one step ahead of the conversation in my mind? Well, am I one step behind because I'm trying something on in the body? And I thought, that's really curious. That's really curious. And so distraction can come in all three aspects that we can be distracted by: our physical sensations where we're not being conversation, or we can get emotionally caught up in something that's said, like you were saying, you might feel triggered. And I thought, well, you could get wrapped up in the emotional story of something and not being present in the conversation, as well as we said about the mental thinking aspect. So all three have the value to help us become more discerning in when we're present and when we're not, and how we know we're present. That's what I'm kind of leading into, and I'd love you to respond to that sense of it.
For me, the presence is that alignment of our communication system, our connection above, below, and a stillness within. And the stillness is alive, if you will. So there's movement within the stillness, unlike sedation. So am I sitting here like a bump on a log trying to have a conversation, or trying to track the conversation or be in the conversation, but I'm sedated. So I'm not really engaged, or I'm not really in relationship with my own communication system. I'm speaking just like on the surface or off the cuff, if you will. And conversation, wow, it's a balance of off the cuff, because I can be a little quirky and bring that celebratory like goofiness into things. But there's also that depth, like into the depth of the stillness of being in conversation. So it's a wide variety. And in community, it's beautiful because we all have that chance to be authentically where we are at any given moment, in the midst of supportive, just like, okay, be where you're at and play.
And I'm taking that moment to pause and really take in what you just said. There's so much there. There's so much there. And I know I've been in your presence long enough to know when you say the richness of what's available in community, I really felt that. I felt the deep resonance and register of what that is for you, because I know you. And I just want that to be felt in our conversation now. And part of that wanting, that longing for people to know the importance of community, this is where I feel myself in the stillness and moving with the power of community, and why we do what we do, why we sit here in conversation for others to listen. And I just feel that, I feel that sense of why we come here, why we show up and share our experiences, our thoughts about living somatically, living sentiently, as we use that language as well. And how it's, for me, it's such a longing to invite others to explore and be curious about their own lives and how they operate. And if there's a longing that is there, but it hasn't been given a pause and a moment to really acknowledge and make a request of us, or we make a request of ourselves. How's that land for you, Lori?
Yeah, yes, I can relate to all of that, and I do it because it doesn't have to be so hard, right? There's a part of me that wishes everyone can have that internal joy or that spark of celebration within. And no matter what your history, I want people to find that and like find the beauty in the world, the beauty within, and live from that place rather than that, you know, the dissonance of life. Join the like the awesomeness of life and shine, you know, shine brightly.
You know what? I would add, include the dissonance,
Well, yes, yes,
include your story, because
yeah,
your story is what gives you that starting point of where you move from.
yeah.
And I think it's like such a really lovely way to kind of close our conversation today with this idea of what is it to explore Soma that we've been talking about the last few weeks? Being conversation within yourself, with another, like we do together in the full community, how you take your history with you and how you make discoveries that bring you more connecting to living alive. Like you were saying, I love the word alive.
Mhm.
And with that, we want to invite you, come and be in conversation with us, like truly be the conversation. This next week, we're having a conversation. It's just an open invitation to come and sit with us and share your perspective of your story through the story of life and through how you experience yourself as a somatic being in your mind, in your emotion, in your body languaging, and what you long for in expanding that story or rewriting that story if that's what you're after, right?
Yeah.
And you can register. It's free. It's a conversation, and it's Thursday, March 16th, 9 a.m. Mountain Time. It's 1 hour long. So anybody who joins will have enough time for everyone to share stories, ask questions, feel the resonance of themselves with others, feel the dissonance, the differences in how we operate, and just enjoy the diversity of that and finding where do you start within yourself, and are you interested,
Yeah.
and what might it bring for you in your life? Anything else before we close, Lori?
No, I look, I'm so excited and looking forward to it because for me, I always like to hear the different perspectives and to be in the witnessing of people being in relationship with their somas or not in relationship with their somas. So I'm like, come join us. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and you can register online, www.loc-institute.com. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Oh,
I was
good.
checking you.
I'm like, and we look forward to seeing you all and hope you have a most beautiful day.
Enjoy.